We are going to look at the current status of AI in B2B pricing as well as in sales and marketing. So we're going to give you some examples there and then diving a bit deeper in the results of the survey, sharing some insights, and then finally closing with some recommendations and next steps, how to get started with AI in pricing, sales and marketing. And then as mentioned previously, you will have the opportunity to address your questions through the Q&A box that we are happy to answer. So as said, briefly about us. So maybe George, why don't you start and I continue?
So, hi everyone, excited to be here today with Steve to present all these amazing results from our AI applications penetration and benefits study. I'm George Boretos. I have an experience of more than 25 years in AI, and this is something that I love. And the past 8 years, I became a startupper, so I've launched 3 startup companies in the AI space, working a lot with all sorts of customers, but especially with Fortune 500 and big corporates. And my latest endeavor is Future Up, a company specializing in AI-based price optimization. Again, happy to be here and share all these results with Steve. Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, George. So briefly about me, my name is Steve Laborda. As you might recognize, I'm a French person living too long in Germany. That's why this very weird accent, but I hope you can all understand me. From background, I'm a PhD chemist. I have been also working in the chemical industry for more than 15 years on the commercial side of things. Yeah, so mainly on commercial excellence. And about a bit more than 4 years ago, I decided to become an entrepreneur. And I started and founded ValueBees Booster that takes care of B2B companies to enhance their growth and profit through commercial excellence, value selling, and many other topics. So that was briefly about me. But I think enough about us. I'm sure you are waiting to hear more about AI. So let's go to the first part where we're going to look around the trends of AI, and George is going to navigate us through this.
So, trends about AI, and first of all, the most important question is where are we today in AI and its penetration in the market? And I think we all know the answer to that, to this one. AI is simply the talk of the town right now. Everybody's talking about AI. It wasn't like that before a few years, before 5 years or so. Nobody, or almost nobody, was talking about that. So, what changed? Well, what happened was ChatGPT, this tiny, small tool that we all been using from its launch in 2000, in late 2022, is perhaps the most important AI application in the history of AI. Why is that? Before its launch, practically all sophisticated AI tools were accessed and was the privilege of a smaller elite of technology enthusiasts and visionaries. But after its launch, everything changed. Why was that? Because ChatGPT was and still is a very easy to use tool through a very simple conversational interface that we all have seen and witnessed and used, and delivered almost instant value, great value. And this made it an instant sensation. It took the world by storm, and it helped also popularize not just ChatGPT, but also the whole AI segment, the whole AI market. And this is exactly what happened. After the launch of ChatGPT, practically AI entered the mainstream market. It was in the early stage market, and this changed everything because right now all these tools are available to all of us, to the masses, to use and harvest all the benefits that go with it. So all these tools in the AI space has won our hearts, but also it's winning other things like Nobel Prizes. So I guess you've seen the news in the past couple of weeks, great news about AI. And we have won 2 Nobel Prizes, one in physics, with one of the most notable figures in AI. Geoffrey Hinton is called the godfather of deep learning and AI. And together with John Hopfield, they won the Nobel Prize in physics for their work in machine learning and in neural networks. And also in chemistry, the same thing happened. AI won again their The Google DeepMind team won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for their amazing model, AI model, the AlphaFold 2 used in biotechnology. So definitely AI is the talk of the town, and definitely it attracts a lot of attention, and this time also from the Nobel Prizes as well. But there is a big misunderstanding because ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and all these generative AI tools acted as a catalyst in popularizing the AI market. Some people think that this is AI, that's all there is to it. This is far from the truth. Actually, there are many subsegments within AI, and we will focus in just three, whatever has to do with commercial functions within a company. So generative AI, definitely, to create content or to search or retrieve information. Sales and marketing automation AI tools as well, and predictive AI, which is usually price optimization, sales forecast, or things like that. But apart from that, within the broader AI space, which is a very, very big space, there are many other subcategories like autonomous cars, robotics, computer vision, and many other. This is just an indicative list. And now let's talk a bit about the commercial functions applications. We will focus on pricing, sales, and marketing. And this is a Gartner chart that indicates some, again, not all of the applications within this subdomain, within the broader AI domain. As you can see, there are many different applications like price optimization, opportunities scoring, sales forecasting, and so on and so forth. Let's deep dive into the first category, which is pricing. Let me explain a bit how this chart, this pyramid works. It has two dimensions. The left-hand side dimension is the value, the business impact of the specific application, AI application. And the right-hand side dimension is the feasibility. How feasible is this specific application? And as you can see, price optimization is the single most important application, AI application, according to Gartner, because it's the most business-wise impactful, but also it's tangible, it's feasible, it's something that can be done. So this is something, especially for people coming from the pricing space, and we have lots of pricing professionals attending this call today. It's a no-brainer that price is the most important profit lever and one of the most important growth levers as well. So obviously the business value is there. It's definitely great. But also there are tools out there that can do the job, methodologies and AI tools that definitely can do price optimization that have been used for several years quite successfully. Actually, all of these applications that you see here predated generative AI and the whole frenzy that came up after the introduction before a couple of years. So it should have been a no-brainer that engaging with AI-based price optimization application, it's a great thing and everybody should do that. So yeah, it should have been like that, but please hold on that thought until we reach the slide where we have all the penetration per different applications, and perhaps you will be surprised. A couple of examples for price optimization applications. We picked dynamic pricing not because it's the most important price optimization application, but because it's the most visible to all of us, because all of us have used at least once, or most likely many times, portals that are using dynamic pricing. For instance, a great example, we all know that when we try to book an airplane ticket, we are using aggregator sites like Skyscanner, or perhaps you are using directly the portal of each and every airline. In all cases, there is a dynamic AI-based price optimization algorithm in place. It takes into consideration various variables like your destination, your country of origin, competitive pricing, market conditions, and so on and so forth, and immediately adjust, dynamically adjust the price. This is why sometimes when we do the same search after a few minutes, we see different prices. Sometimes if we do the same search at the same time, from our laptop versus our mobile phone, we'll see something different. And definitely, if someone next door does the same search, they will see different prices. Everything changes real time and dynamically. Now, that was a great success because now it has become the norm and everybody's using such sites. And we feel comfortable with dynamic pricing in this specific market. This tempted other markets to follow, and some of them did so successfully, like the hospitality market. Booking.com, for instance, is such a successful example. Like the retail market, Amazon is using dynamic pricing, one of the best portals using dynamic pricing worldwide. But there are also some unsuccessful examples, and in this case, there's a very recent example from Oasis, the famous band, which did a now infamous, unfortunately, is considered a fiasco concert in the UK using dynamic pricing. But it wasn't done properly, and it inflated prices within a few hours by 3 times or so, making all fans furious. Even politicians had to step in and stand and say things against dynamic pricing. So the bank was forced to drop this and not use dynamic pricing in the next series of concerts in the United States. Now, what's the lesson on that? It's not that dynamic pricing is not a great thing, because it is a great thing, but it needs to be executed properly, and it needs to have at least a high level monitoring by humans. So you need to have humans working together with AI. In this case, we didn't have something like that. It was a fully automated dynamic pricing system that when it started behaving strangely, there was no human there to change that or to stop it from doing silly things.
We have now talked about pricing, obviously great examples from George that are very tangible. In the B2B landscape, it's not that easy to share that concrete examples, but I'm going to walk you some structural examples in a minute. But I'm sure you have noticed, all of you have noticed that the B2B landscape is changing, and obviously it's getting more and more digital. And what does that mean? It does mean that actually most of the decision makers at your customers are actually looking to reduce the human interactions. And either they are switching to remote human interactions, so trying to get Teams calls, or even going to digital services, self-services. And why actually? That's simple. It's just easier for them. Negotiations are easier if they do human interactions. Digital self-services, they can do that even on the sofa on the evening, yeah, and can check where the order stands, when is it going to be delivered. So that is one element, though that means that the touch points are getting more and more digital. And that means also that you need to have tools that helps you to touch those digital points. And AI is actually one of those that can help you to make your sales and marketing activities thrive and reach out much better your customers in the way they would like to have it. So you're actually increasing the customer orientation as well using AI in many places. And of course, you can use that in many places. You saw that in the diagram that George showed you from Gartner. There are many, many places, and the ones that are most probably the most dominant ones are lead generation, pipeline management, and social selling. So far, we will deep dive a bit more in different parameters or different angles of the sales and marketing tools in a second. But before that, I would like to engage with the audience and to hear from you, where are you actually using AI so far in sales and marketing? And so if you're familiar with Menti, you know you can either scan the QR code with your phone or go to menti.com and enter the 8 digits that you see here. I'm going to move directly to the Menti page where you will see exactly the same information. What you see while some of you are still answering, what you see is actually forecasting seems to be one dominating or no use so far. So that's somehow the no use so far. We were expecting it, that you will see it most probably in the results as well, that still many people are not that familiar with it. But what you see is a lot also is related to content creation, either on customer communication or emails or campaigns. Then some competitive benchmarking, so that's good. Analytics as well. So that's kind of, I don't know, George, how you see it, but for me, this is a very typical answer I would have expected somehow.
Yeah, more or less, yes. I mean, if we exclude Gen AI, which is for content creation, this is a usual thing. For everything else, we could have expected no use so far.
Yep, exactly. How can you actually cluster? Because it's kind of a long list of tools that you can use that are enhanced with AI. And you can cluster them actually in three main categories if you want. There might be others, obviously, but most of them you can cluster either in field sales and marketing activities. The other one, the sales management, so leaders, how can they manage their teams and the pipelines? And then sales enablement, so how do you help your sales and marketing teams to be better on their daily job? So, for instance, in the field and sales and marketing, and obviously this is not an exhaustive list, that's just a few examples. But as we saw also in the Menti, so the real-time competitor data and insights, so scrapping information about competitors, about e-commerce platforms or prices and so forth is definitely one aspect. Enhancing communication and strategy. So with smart insights of customer data, that's the next one, which is a bit related. So on one side, you look at competitors, on the other side, you look at your customers. Of course, you can also look at hot leads or identifying those with predictive lead scoring. So many of you might have lead scoring in place, but it's a very manual exercise in many places. And it's typically more looking at historical data than really predictive data. So that doesn't necessarily always help you. Then identifying cross-selling opportunities. And in other words, for those who are familiar with it, it's the white spot analysis. So trying to understand patterns, behaviors of your customers in a market, in an application, to identify potential leads that are not yet buying the full portfolio, for instance. And then the last one, automating outreach with personalization. So that's a bit twofolded. One, the automation, obviously, but also the personalization, which you mentioned as well on the Menti. So that are typical cases. I'm going to show you also some tools as examples on the next slide in a minute. Then on the sales management, I think there are mainly three different angles to look at that are very powerful with AI. One is to look at pipeline management recommendation, especially nowadays, where maybe the business is not running as expected, where you don't get the volume that you're expecting. That might be a great idea to look at it. Of course, it's a bit linked also to the cross-selling opportunities, but then also how, as a manager of your sales and marketing team, to analyze and make recommendations related to the performance of your team. And then obviously hyper-personalized coaching. So really to link the performance of your individuals in a team to be able to provide the right elements of coaching. Because obviously, typically what happens is as a team leader, you tend then to average the coaching approach and not necessarily having the time to make it so personalized. And then finally, the sales enablement part. Of course, you can streamline a lot of operations with AI assistant. So either from a workflow point of view, but also elements like helping with chatbots or support bots in the CRM with your teams, for instance. Of course, you can do AI-enabled trainings, but also AI-enabled guided selling. So the AI-enhanced tool is then providing you either some good questions to ask or some content or some products that could be sold to that customer based on their specific needs. And before I move to the next slide, just a kind reminder that do not hesitate to ask questions in the Q&A box. We're happy to answer those at the end of the session. So briefly, and here there is no aim to do any advertisement. That's just few examples. There are many, many more. But so you see that some of those are going across, like the Salesforce with Einstein, they are going across the three categories. Others are more specific. I'm not going to go one by one on those. If you're interested, we can discuss that separately after the session. Yeah, so you see that, I mean, Otter is well known also in the sales management, not only because you can, of course, record sales call, but you can also record team calls or individual calls. That gives you even AI-enhanced feedback on body language and on vocabulary, for instance. So that was just to show you kind of the three kind of categories that you have. So that's essential to understand that not every AI tool is for everything. Even some of them are, of course, going through many categories. But what you see also is that if you ask commercial leaders about how optimistic they are about the impact of several tools, and here you see they are focusing on the Gen AI. So categories. And this study has been shared or done by McKinsey. What you see is actually the top three are again lead identification, market optimization, so related to what you mentioned on the Menti, the email campaigns, but also the personalized outreach. So those three seem to have the biggest impact for commercial leaders. So what it means in a sense is that whenever you start or consider to start an AI tool implementation, look always at the applicability and the return on invest. It's more or less the same discussion we had maybe 10, 15 years about the CRM and about 10 years about digitalization. So everybody was running to everything. So just here, just avoid the pitfall and select it carefully to identify what is really the biggest impact. So that was briefly about an overview about the sales and marketing landscape and little do's and don'ts. I'm sure now we are all expecting the results, so I'm not going to spend too much time, but we are going to start to share the findings of our survey in a second. And George is going to do that in a minute. But we put that question, are you lagging behind? And I think the answer of the Menti shows that many are kind of having no use yet. And I think that's might be the feeling that many of you have, because if you are even on LinkedIn, I mean, every second or third post is about AI. So you feel, have you missed the train? And I would say, but George, correct me if you see it differently, but I think the train has started, but not at the speed that you can't jump on it anymore.
Definitely, yes. We are running below expectation. We will see a lot of evidence to support that, and there is definitely something that needs to be fixed, especially in the pricing community. But we'll see that in a few minutes when we see all the detailed results. So let's start with exploring the market survey and the results that we got from it. The market survey ran for online, first of all, and over a few months. And it has a very good representation in terms of industries. As you can see, manufacturing is there, services is there, software, technology is there. And also in terms of function, all the relevant functions to what we are presenting today, so pricing, marketing, sales are definitely there. The most important thing is that we have lots of respondents from top management. And that's important because we all know that even the best strategy in marketing, sales, pricing, anything will fail if there is no support and commitment from top management. So it's great that we have a good representation from all different levels and also factions. So let's start with the first insight, which is the obvious one. How important does the market feel and the respondents feel that the AI is for their business? So overall, there is a good feeling that overall it's something great, something is happening there. But the market seems to be divided. So as you can see here in this pie chart, there is this green part of the market, the part which we call the enthusiast, because this 41% thinks that AI is not just something okay, interesting, but a game changer. It's very important, it's critical, so it's going to change things. And that's great. This is exactly what we want to see. But it's not like that for all the markets. So you see that still there is some resistance from this 27% from people who are saying that, okay, AI is not so impressive and perhaps not so important. And there are some neutral guys, people who think that AI is important, but perhaps not a game changer. But the good news is that almost everyone thinks that this is going to change. So the importance of AI is going to evolve and it's going to increase a lot in the following X months, the following few months or a year. So that means that practically what we've seen is a symptom of a market influx, of a marketing transformation during a transformation period. It was in the early stage market before a couple of years, and now it is in the mainstream market. So it's still early in this evolutionary process. So this is why it's normal to see some resistance. This is going to change, and hopefully in the next months, years, we will see more green, less red. This is normal, and most likely this is what is going to happen. Now, let's see what's the actual usage of AI. And I have to note that this is whatever AI these people and respondents are using, including Gen AI, which is the simplest way to get into the AI world. So these are great news because practically, it's not a universal acceptance yet, but practically most people are using AI. So 76% of the universe that we questioned, we surveyed, plus a 12% that is planning to use AI in the next 6 months. So there is just a small minority of 12% that they are not using AI, they're not going to use it in the next few months or something like that. And this is going to change, and eventually we will get universal support and approval by everyone. Also, these 76% that are using AI right now, it's a living proof of AI being in the mainstream part of the market because most of the people are using some sort of AI as we speak. This is great. And now I'm handing over to Steve to speak about the penetration
Yeah. So
application.
if you, again, we see that Gen AI is kind of dominating. So it's interesting. I think it links a lot to the mainstream aspect of it because it's easy to use. I think the value is relatively easy to grasp as well. And so those tools like ChatGPT, I'm sure almost every one of you has been using it. Yeah. But what you see is that the others then drop quite quickly, right? So the sales and marketing automation, or even the customer service, the process automation, or even the forecasting, which is interesting because actually in the Menti, actually, that was one of the biggest use. So that's quite interesting that we have a bit a different view here. But what is really kind of surprising is that pricing is kind of the red lantern here. Yeah. So knowing that if you look back to the graph that you have seen that George presented from Gartner, having the biggest impact and the highest feasibility, it's kind of surprising. But yeah, so we are going to deep dive a bit further later on this one. But what you see also is that actually most users are actually satisfied by AI. So of course, most of them are using Gen AI, I suppose. So that's why that's, I think, the reference point. We might need to delve deeper into that one in the next survey to understand, is it related to the type of AI that is used? Yeah. But what you see is that actually more than 40% are very happy. If you add the OK, which are more than 50, you get more than 95% actually of users that are satisfied. Yeah. And I think the next one is really important. So I'm handing over to George.
Yeah.
To tell us more.
Actually, this is my favorite slide. And why? Because it's a great way of categorizing and grouping applications together. So we used two dimensions. One was the satisfaction, the level of satisfaction. As Steve said, there is a high satisfaction in all different applications, but there are differences. Some people are super happy, some are just happy. So we gather only the super happy people, and this is the dimension that you see on the vertical axis. On the horizontal axis, you see the penetration of each and every application. So it's clear that visibly these applications can be grouped together. And you have here the Gen AI species, which is so far it's leading the AI race. It's not surprising because Gen AI was what started the recent AI frenzy. So obviously they are getting a lot of attention and a lot of love for all of us. And they have the biggest satisfaction and also the biggest penetration. Exactly what Steve said before a slide, before a minute. And also then we have sales and marketing automation tools. Again, very high satisfaction, but this time we have much smaller penetration levels between 25 and 35%. That's okay because it's still in the beginning of this process, but definitely there is an opportunity to improve that. It needs to be improved much more, but definitely there is a critical mass there. And the only area where it's a strange area, let's say, it's predictive AI with pricing and forecasting. And remember that pricing, according to Gartner, is supposed to be the most valuable and feasible also application of AI in business and commercial functions. And surprisingly, predictive AI applications have the lowest penetration plus the lowest levels of satisfaction. That doesn't mean that the customers are not satisfied. They are, but they are not as happy relative to other categories. So this is surprising, and this is definitely an opportunity because pricing, especially price optimization, is such a great profit lever, such a great growth lever, and it's a pity to miss this opportunity to improve our business because for some reason there is not a lot of focus in this area. This slide is about pricing professionals. There are a couple of reasons why we did this deep dive into the pricing professionals part of the respondents. First of all, because pricing professionals are related to pricing and price optimization, which is a great and very, very impactful part of the business. And second, because there were and still are many attendees from the pricing space, so we thought this would be extremely important. And actually, what we've seen is that pricing professionals are really interested or impressed by AI application. So more than half of them, 56% of them, think that AI is not so important or a nice to have thing. The same percentage for all other professions, all other roles, just 19%. That's a huge difference. And this is reflected on the penetration percentages, which is 56% are using AI in the pricing world, as opposed to 81% for all other roles. Again, a big difference. What does this say? There could be numerous different explanations for that. It could be that pricing professionals are more conservative, or some of these people are more conservative than other roles, and therefore they have more resistance into new technologies, into AI tools and things like that. It could be that existing AI technologies or price optimization software do not deliver either exactly what they want or in the way that they want to see information and suggestions. It could be a number of different explanations, possibly something that we can't imagine right now. But the fundamental truth of life right now is that pricing people are less convinced, less impressed by AI, and more reluctant to using it. And that's a big miss because imagine, especially for price optimization, if pricing people don't lean into the AI adoption in pricing, who's going to lead this market? No one is. So we will be left behind. So there's a big opportunity if we do something about it and put more focus there, and also a big threat if we don't do anything about it. So this is what success looks like according to the respondents. What are the evaluation criteria? What are the benefits? What are the key objectives of all these respondents? Not surprisingly, the best one or the most important one is efficiency improvement. Especially if you think about it, the higher penetration is with Gen AI tools, which mostly in most cases have to do with efficiency improvements, then this resonates and makes sense. Immediately after, we have financial performance like profitability, revenue, cost, all these things, and then satisfaction, both from the customer side and also from the employee side. What's perhaps surprising, but if you think about it, perhaps it's not, it's that the accuracy of the AI model is not so important. If you think about it, what the market says or what the respondents are saying is that we are business people. We are interested in the business impact of any of these AI tools and not so interested in the accuracy of the model. If the model is directionally correct, not entirely accurate, but even with these directionally correct suggestions, it helps us make an impact in our business. That's great. This is all that we want. And I tend to agree with all of you that this is how we should handle AI models. It's not the accuracy that matters, but the business impact that matters the most. I just wanted to highlight also one thing which is related to our previous discussion about pricing people, price optimization, which is profitability. Surprising from all the business factor, this has the smaller weight, 37%. And I think this is related because we have smaller penetration of price optimization software, which directly affects pricing. And also pricing people put less effort and less focus on AI tools. Again, pricing people are related to profitability. Usually they have objectives relevant to profitability. I think all these factors are blended together. And this creates a threat if we don't do anything about it, and an opportunity if we do something about it. And this something about it that we should do is put more effort there. And there is a great responsibility, I think, in the pricing community to do so. And a fun chart. a fun chart about AGI. AGI is artificial general intelligence or human equivalent intelligence, the dream of centuries, of ages, of years, of whatever. Are we able to achieve that in the following years? Yes or no? If you ask AI leaders like Elon Musk said actually that next year we will do that. Don't worry. But he's super optimistic always. We know that. And super great, obviously. If you ask Sam Altman or Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, they will say somewhere in the next few years, 2 to 5 years, we'll have achieved that. But it seems that the market disagrees, and there is a disconnect because 60% of the respondents say either we will never achieve AGI or it will take more than 5 years. Who knows? Perhaps these AI leaders know that they are cooking something great within their R&D labs, and perhaps they will surprise us. But for the time being, whatever is out there is definitely not AGI and far away from being even close to AGI. And I'm handing over to Steve.
Thanks a lot, George, for that detailed review of the insights. Before I go to the recommendation and next steps, just a kind reminder, we have already a few questions in the Q&A box, but don't miss it. We are going to move to the Q&A in a few minutes. So let's have a look. So what are the highlights of today, actually? Obviously, I think that everybody is going to agree AI is here to stay and is important. And you see that Gen AI actually dominates the market, most probably because of his applicability, of his mainstream aspects. Yeah. Of course, what you see also, there's a lot of room for further development for all of the AI applications. We have seen that actually price optimization is surprisingly an outlier. Yeah. So there's a low penetration, though a high impact. And I see there's one question about it. So George, be ready to answer that question in a minute. And then users are overall satisfied, and they value efficiency as you saw presented. So that was the number one. And then you saw that the financial impact in an agglomerated way, either in cost savings or in growth or in profit, are seen as the next most relevant benefits of AI. So that was quickly the highlights. And what we would like to share with you as well briefly is to share some recommendation if you are at the beginning of a journey. Yeah. So don't be worried about it, just embrace it. Yeah, I think that's essential. Just take it, jump on the train. It works and it delivers a lot of huge benefits. Though don't just consider AI. Yeah, it might not be the right solution. I mean, just thinking about generative AI might not be the right one for price optimization. Yeah. So think really about the different AI methods and adapt to your needs that you have. And as you saw, AI-powered price optimization is not yet really adapted, despite the high impact that it can have. So you might get a competitive edge by starting a journey on AI-powered price optimization. And then, as said, not every AI is equal. So assess the impact and complexity of your implementation before starting an AI project. So do you have a match between the AI method that you're trying to do? And then going back to the embrace it, just follow Nike spirit and just do it. Just get started. We are going to move now to the Q&A. So I hope so far you found it interesting. Don't miss to drop your questions. We might not be able to answer all of those, but happy to have separate discussions afterwards. I have one question which says, in pricing, adoption of AI-based pricing has shown to be cumbersome, which is not surprising, George, right? Because there's a reluctance to hand over something as important as pricing to a machine. So what are the best ways to overcome the initial concerns in order to make users try out AI in pricing? So in other words, I mean, if we do translate that question in a future looking as well, so I put it twofold, George, is AI or the robots going to take over the role of pricing managers?
No way this is going to happen. Actually, I'm releasing a post on LinkedIn about that exactly. remember what happened, for instance, with Oasis UK concert, because there was no human in the loop, there was just an automated system, everything was destroyed. So humans and AI must work in tandem in order to create the best possible solution. That's one thing. The second thing, I understand the question has to do a bit about the risks of implementing an AI system and leaving some of the decisions to the system and so on and so forth. First of all, you don't have to leave the decisions to the AI system. You can educate the decision making of the decision makers, which may be sellers, maybe whatever. But also, you can take smaller steps. You don't have to implement a price optimization system for all countries, all your product portfolio, all at once. You can make pilots. You can do proof of concepts. You can do price experiments. I mean, there are lots of ways to experiment to something smaller with less risk, gain some knowledge, understand there are limitations or problems to be fixed with your AI price optimization systems, and then move ahead and expand the solution to other territories, regions, products, whatever, once you feel more comfortable. But the only thing that you should never do is allow the system to fully automate it, make all pricing decisions without any human, at least high level monitoring. There should be at least someone or some people or a group of people within the loop of the pricing decision-making process, regardless if it is automated and facilitated by price optimization tool, dynamic pricing, or whatever.
Could you maybe illustrate more an example how predictive AI could optimize pricing for B2B? So if you go a bit more in details.
Yeah, well, for B2B, the most important difference, there are a couple of important differences from B2C. First of all, you don't have so transparent pricing information like in B2C, where you can crawl, for instance, websites and find the information. Here, the information is a bit hidden because there are negotiations, this proprietary information, and so on and so forth. And second, usually you don't have millions of different customers, so you don't have big data, you have smaller data. That means that you need a more sophisticated AI tool, usually an econometric AI tool. In B2C, you can go ahead with a less sophisticated tool because you can compensate with the bigger data sets that you have. So usually what we do in the B2B segment is, first of all, there needs to be a discussion with the customer in order to implement the tool. It's not a one size fits all. We need to understand, first of all, what are the objectives of the customer. It could be price optimization for revenue. It could be profit optimization. It could be profitable growth. It could be a number of things. Then to understand what are the key parameters that affect the price optimization exercise. It could be market conditions, competitors, and so on and so forth. And then we try to model that. Once we do that, and again, we should use an econometric model because usually we don't have a lot of data, we should experiment. And the first experiment is not the laboratory experiment for the accuracy of the model. Obviously, we should do that. We should experiment and test the model with whom? With the key business stakeholders. Do all these suggestions created by the model make sense or not? Once you have checked all this, both the statistical aspect of the model checks out great, and we have great accuracy, blah, 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 plus business people say, okay, directionally, at least this is what I would have expected from the system to have, then you go ahead and you launch the model. It could be a small pilot or it could be a global go live, depending on how confident you are about the solution. So there is more discussion with the key stakeholders as opposed to B2C solutions where you have a lot of embedded information within the big data that they usually have. That's the key difference between the two systems.
Okay, thanks a lot, George. I'm going to take one which is not related to pricing, and then we go back to all the list of pricing questions. So there's many of those. There's one about the top AI tools for competitive intelligence to monitor your competitors. I think there it's, I would say it depends a lot what you're trying to collect. Is it more on the customer, the company, or is it the individuals or whatever? So I would suggest, happy to have that discussion separately because I think we need another half an hour to discuss that. So I would say let's take that separately. And I'm jumping back to the pricing, George. So you could drink a glass of water and breathe. Now the next one is
I just
about
drank it.
data quality. So how do you deal with data quality with AI pricing optimization? So do you need to do a cleansing before, or is that part of the AI tool that is doing that? So how do you deal with that?
Well, definitely you need to cleanse your data. Sometimes you need to structure data. Sometimes, for instance, you don't have access to structured price information for competitors or I don't know, anything else. And you need to use a Gen AI tool in order to structure the information. Sometimes you don't have a specific product categorization across countries, so you need to do some processing, pre-processing before you apply your AI price optimization tool in order to compare apples with apples. So definitely there needs to be some sort of cleansing. But what's a myth is that we need all data and to be as best possible shape in order to start the optimization process. It doesn't work like that because AI price optimization tools tend to guess a lot of things because this is what they do based on whatever data they have, and sometimes they don't have the best quality data or not all of them. They are able to guess things or get rid of the noise. If the exercise is successful with not the best possible data set or not, is something that can be measured from the system. The system measures accuracy, for instance, with various methods. And based on that, you can see if with the specific data set that you see, that you are using, and the specific variables that you are using, you get something valuable or not. If not, then you need to cleanse the data more or you need more data. If yes, then you can proceed with that. The same with competitors, by the way, which is very important because some customers say competitors are very important, but if we don't have information about them and we can do price optimization. And you do the exercise without competitors' data and everything checks out fine. Why? Because competitors is part of the business as usual marketplace, and this information is already embedded in their sales data, so you can derive this information from there.
Another one that comes few times is how long does it take in average to adapt an AI pricing optimization implementation?
Well, again, it depends on the tool. If the tool is an econometric tool, highly sophisticated, then all the complexity is already absorbed by the tool, and in many cases, you can go live in 1 month, let's say. And this includes data collection, cleansing, and discussions with the customer. If the tool is what we usually see, some black boxes, general purpose tools that are heavily used out there, then in this case, it needs a lot of more testing, a lot of more parameterization, because you need to do more things because the tool is not sophisticated enough to get to do all these things. So in this case, it could take even months. For big implementations, it could even take more than a year. So it depends a lot. It depends a lot on the problem, on the customer, and also on the tool used.
I will take this one briefly. So how critical is the integration of AI solution with the rest of the process? And there I have my very typical German, very clear answers, which is Jein. So it depends in a sense. So it depends really on what is the value that you provide by integrating it. Is it a must? Not really. So you will have really to define based on your landscape if it makes sense or not to include it. The last one, which actually we didn't talk much about safety, but how safe is it to use AI in business overall? George, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, well, it's safe as any other system. Obviously, you need to have some safeguards, and one of the safeguards is exactly what we said about the Oasis dynamic pricing case. You need to have a human in the loop. Sometimes AI systems, sometimes systems in general, behave strangely. So if you don't have anyone, any human in the loop to monitor this strange behavior, then the system will go out of control. Definitely, you need to have humans. Definitely, you need to test, first of all, your system. And definitely, you need to apply whatever security, safety guidelines you have from the company. I'm talking about data security and all these things. But this is not a thing unique to AI systems. This is common for all IT implementation, for all IT systems. The only thing that is different in AI is that in some cases, if we're talking about a highly sophisticated system, it can make up their minds, sort of, and take initiative if they are allowed to. So they shouldn't be allowed to take all the decisions alone. They should be monitored because they are clever, but not so clever as some people think.
I think it's time to close, so to wrap up also. So if you haven't got answered your question, we are happy to take those separately. You will also receive, as a follow-up of this webinar, the slide deck as well as the recording. So if you have any further questions, then feel free to reach out as well. And as promised, we have a little gift for you. So if you're interested in getting an AI, not an AI free consultation, but an AI free consultation, yeah, you can reach out to one of us. I'm going to show you on the next slide our email addresses. So within the next 48 hours and reserve a seat for a 30 minutes AI brainstorming session. We are limiting those obviously to 10, so you need to be fast. So feel free. It will be a brainstorming session either with George or with myself or both together to discuss whatever challenge you have along AI. And as said, here are our email addresses. So you see george.boretos@futureup.io or stevelaborda@valuebeesbooster.com. And of course, first in, first serve. So we are going to look then in 2 days, in 48 hours, then who were the respondent and placing them and inviting and for free consultation. So I think it's time to say thank you. So thanks everyone. I hope you found the webinar insightful. As said, if you have more questions, feel free to reach out and looking forward to those future discussions. And thanks for joining and let's stay in touch.
Thanks everyone and embrace AI in pricing and elsewhere. Thank you.